What is earnest money? Where does earnest money go? How does earnest money work? That's our topic today. We'll get started right after this. In this video, we'll share exactly what the good faith deposit or earnest money in a real estate purchase is for, when it gets cashed, and what happens if the buyer cancels the transaction or doesn't perform or wants to back out of the transaction and they want their earnest money back. Hi, I'm Kim Ward, 2 decades real estate broker in San Diego, California, helping personal representatives through the process of preparing, marketing, and successfully selling homes in probate or trust administration. The earnest money deposit, also known as a good faith deposit, is a certain amount of money, typically 1% of the purchase price, that a buyer puts down to demonstrate their serious intent to purchase a property. It's a financial commitment made by the buyer to the seller, indicating that they are earnest about proceeding with the transaction. This deposit is a critical component of the offer and acceptance process in real estate transactions. In the context of a real estate transaction in San Diego, California, when a buyer makes an offer on a property, they will typically include an earnest money deposit. This deposit serves as a demonstration of the buyer's commitment and intent to purchase your property. It provides you, the seller, with assurance that the buyer is serious and not just casually shopping around. The earnest money deposit, essentially, it takes the property off the market for a specified period of time, preventing the seller from accepting other offers during that time. However, it's crucial to note that this deposit isn't handed directly to the seller. Instead, it's typically held in an escrow account by a third-party escrow company. The escrow company acts as a neutral intermediary between the buyer and the seller during the transaction process. They hold and manage the earnest money deposit until the sale is finalized, ensuring that it's protected and correctly applied according to the terms of the purchase agreement. The amount of the earnest money deposit can vary, but in San Diego, it's typically around 1% to 3% of the sale price. However, this percentage can fluctuate depending on various factors, such as the local real estate market conditions, the specifics of the transaction, or even negotiations between the buyer and the seller. It's always advisable to consult with a real estate professional or an attorney to understand how much should be expected for an earnest money deposit in your specific situation. Now, you might be wondering, what happens to the deposit once it's been made? If the sale goes through as planned, the earnest money deposit is usually applied towards the buyer's down payment or their closing costs at closing. This means that it's not an extra cost for the buyer, but rather part of their total payment for the home, the property. However, if the buyer decides to back out of the deal without a valid reason as specified in the contract contingencies, things might look a little different. In such cases, you, as the seller, may have the right to keep the earnest money deposit or some of it. This serves as compensation for the time and opportunity lost due to the failed transaction. I have been helping with these types of situations in real estate for 2 decades, and in that time, only 2 times have the buyers backed out after they removed all their contingencies in writing. They changed their mind. I don't know why. They didn't want to continue with the purchase. In both cases, we drafted written documentation that the buyer and the seller both had to sign, instructing the escrow officer to release that deposit, the earnest money deposit, to the seller. And they were released. One of them was $5,000. Another one I think was maybe $3,000. Anyway, They were released to our seller and it was non-refundable as liquidated damages to our sellers. I've been doing this a long time and it's a rare situation. On the other hand, if the buyer backs out of a deal due to a reason specified in one of the contingencies in the purchase contract, let's say for example, if they're unable to secure their financing, or if there are unsatisfactory results from an inspection, they are typically entitled to get that earnest money back. The contingencies in a real estate contract are there to protect both parties and ensure that they can exit the contract under certain circumstances without penalty. In conclusion, an earnest money deposit is a significant aspect of a real estate transaction. It provides security for the seller and shows that the buyer's committed to completing the transaction. However, it's essential to understand the terms and conditions associated with the earnest money deposits. As a seller, knowing what an earnest money deposit is, how it works, and what it means for your sale can help you navigate the real estate process more confidently and efficiently. Remember, while this guide provides a general overview of earnest money deposits in San Diego, California, real estate transactions, they can be very complex and vary greatly depending on specific circumstances. Therefore, it's always recommended to consult with a real estate professional, an experienced one, or an attorney to understand all the details and all the implications related to earnest money deposit in your specific situation. By understanding these key elements of the real estate transaction process, you'll be better equipped to navigate the journey of selling your loved one's home in probate or a trust administration. Thank you so much for watching. If you found it of value, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next week. Oh, and go ahead and comment or ask me a question. Thanks.